Yeah. So we'll start. So guys, in last session, when we conducted it, we discussed the step-by-step roadmap for answering the system design problems. So if you guys have not watched that video, I think I'll share it with you. Just watch that up. So you will get a very better sense of how to exactly tackle the system design questions in the interview, and what is the approach to address the problems in the interview step by step. So like as a first thing, whenever we are posed with a system design problem, first thing that we need to do is we have to understand the system that we are planning to build. We have to ask some clarifying questions with the interview. We have to agree come to an agreement with the interviewer on some set of features that we will be designing. So like if you have been asked to design a twitter.com, so Twitter, for example, most of you would have used probably it's kind of a social media microblogging platform where you can just share, people keep sharing their views, and people who just follow it can see them. So like whenever you are asked to design such system, you will ask the interviewer what are the kind of features that you are looking to build. So say in the Twitter, of course, functionality to post a tweets is one of the most critical feature, and it's going to be there undoubtedly. Then second thing which will be there is follow and unfollow, right? Because if there are just random tweets, then the content won't be discoverable on the platform. So there has to be the functionality of follow unfollow, so that people who are interested in particular specific set of people or type of topics, so they can get that kind of post. So one is the tweets, then follow unfollow, and one more feature that we can add, I think, is favorites. So for example, on the apps like Twitter, when you scroll the app, so you might not be in the position to see the full post at the same time. For example, some posts might be having links which you feel are useful, and you might need to access them later, and then later it can be difficult to find that content exactly. So what you do is you mark those kind of posts as star, and you can go back to the favorite section and take a look at what are the posts you have marked as favorites, and so that you have quicker access to the content that you have liked, or you have found it useful, or it could be useful to you in future. So guys, any other set of feature which you guys can suggest? That would be same as a tweet now. Retweet is also a tweet. One thing could be, I think we can list down the features, and then we can choose some of them to build. One is the tweet search. For example, you might be interested in finding say if you want to find COVID related posts, so you will you can just search the Twitter and find those kind of posts. Then another one is trending tags. So trending tags is basically you need to know as a user, if you just go to a platform, you want to know what are the things that people are talking about, what are the hot topics of the discussions going on in the society. So yeah guys, I think these are the set of features which I think good. So for the sake of this discussion, we will we will work primarily on these three features. So since both of these features requires different architecture, and they solve a different problem statement. So for the one interview or one session, this thing becomes too much. So the idea is we have to first understand the feed part of it. How do you generate the feed and timeline, those kind of things. So if we see this part, understand this part in detail, then you will be open for answering lot of questions having for similar platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or to a large extent apps like TikTok as well. So we will see this part, and then we can have a different session later on for these things maybe. Yeah. So guys, now you know basically what to build. These are the three set of features. These are the three features that we are planning to build right now, primarily. So now we need some estimations on the scale. We currently we cannot just go out and build up a system. We first need to get to an agreement with the interviewer, what is the kind of scale that we are expecting, what's going to be the number of users, and all those things. So you can make some assumption and verify it with the interviewer whether the assumption is sensible or not. So this thing is open-ended, and there is no hard line to it. As far as interviewer is good with it, you can move ahead. So for any systems of any consumer apps, if you talk about, so there are two primary things you have to take into the account when you are coming to the estimation. One is the total users, and another one is daily active users. This is known as DAU, and this is total number of users. So for Twitter, we can assume for now that there are around total users as say 500 million, and another thing which we can take is DAU, daily active users, is say 200 million. So guys, this is the rough estimation that we have taken. You can validate this thing with the interviewer. Interviewer may ask you to increase or decrease the scale depending on the things he is planning to, direction in which he wants you to go. So this is one thing. Then another thing we need to take into the account is how many tweets every day, tweets per day. So this is another thing which we need to draw a estimate around before we move ahead. So we need to take some number over here for basically, which would essentially represent number of tweets that people are making every day. So what you can do guys is you can take some ballpark number. So for example, if you see we have taken 20 million users, 200 million users, daily active users. Now if you want, we have to find number of tweets per day, then we need to take a few things in account. Say how many tweets, how many users on an average will make a tweet, will post a tweet. Say for example, we can take certain percentage. For example, if we take say 10% or 20%, say only this number of people tweets every day, and you can have this, so say say 5 tweets every day, 5 tweets per person, something like that. So you will reach one number of sort say 100 million tweets per day. So guys, again this thing also we need to validate once with the interviewer in order to make sure that we are not taking too defensive or too aggressive things. So this is again one thing which we have to validate with the interviewer. Just a second guys, I think there is some issue. Yeah, I think we lost that. Yeah, so anyways, I'll just quickly write it up again. So first thing that we thought of is tweets, features, in terms of features, then follow and follow, favorite, and timeline. These 4 things we are going to discuss, and then we came to estimations. So first thing was we have taken is 200 million daily active users and 100 million tweets per day. Yeah, so due to some reason I think that got erased. Yeah, so now another thing that we need to estimate is favorites as well, right? Favorites. So now how do we estimate the favorite? Say we have 200 million daily active users, and say on an average each user marks 5 tweets as favorite, 5 tweets. So this number will come down to around 1 billion favorites every day. Make sense, guys? So far, any questions? Yeah, cool. So we'll move ahead. Now, guys, another thing that we have to do is we need to do some estimations for storage or network that we are going to need, right? Because at every like at end of the day, everything boils down to amount of storage that you will need or the network bandwidth that your system is going to consume, right? Now, what is the data that's being exchanged in our system? So primary thing is every user will come and access their timeline, right? So a user will come and just keep scrolling. So that is basically our network output would be number of tweets that we are serving. Number of tweets that we are serving, right? So now we need to build some estimation around it, which we can call as tweet views. Now, how do we calculate that? So, say if we have, like we have assumed there are 200 million daily active users, and then another thing that we have to take into the account is, say there are, you have to count basically the number of tweets getting accessed. So say these 200 million are daily active users, and now you can have, say, one user is viewing, say, 20 tweets every day. 20 tweets on an average. So say some user watches just come and go on the platform and doesn't scroll much, or some user will watch say 10 tweets, and so we are considering 20 tweets as an average, that each user will come on the platform and will at least explore 20 tweets. So now how do we calculate the estimation for this? So 200 million and then 20 tweets every day, 20 tweets per user. So this number comes down to around 200, then it's 4000 into 10 raised to 6 for million. So if we multiply it, then it will be around 4 billion tweet views every day. Yeah. Just a second. Yeah, 40 billion tweet views every day. Now comes the next part. This 4 billion tweets per day that we are serving, how much network it will consume. So say each tweet is around 140 characters, and one characters is around 2 bytes. So it will be roughly around 280 bytes. And you can have another 20 bytes for metadata for each tweet. So it will be roughly around 300 bytes of data you are serving per tweet. So if you have this thing 4 billion into 300, so it's around 4 3s are 12 into 10 raised to 11. So which is essentially around this is the amount of data we will be serving through network traffic. And since we are interested in calculating the network estimation, so for example, if we have got this number of tweets per day and then we are doing network estimation, so we are serving this 4 billion tweets every day. each tweet is around 300, and if you divide it to bring it at the second granularity, seconds, if you want to calculate the amount of data you are serving per second, then you need to divide it by say 24 hours into 60 into 60. So this is the total amount of seconds that you have every day. So if you multiply these numbers, so this comes down to around 24 into 60 into 60. So that's 86,400. So we can that's close to 100,000. So instead of writing this, we can write 100,000 just for the ease of calculation. So guys, whenever you do this kind of estimations, it's ballpark estimation. So you don't have to strive to calculate the exact values. Instead, you have to focus on just finding out the near about things basically. So rounding of 86,400 or 87,000 to 100,000 doesn't make much difference. So if we just cancel out this 5 zeros with over here, so we will be left with 6 zeros. So it's essentially like 12 Mbps per it's roughly around, I think 12 MB per second. This is network out. Okay, so this is our estimation on the network bandwidth that we will be needing. So now again guys, why do we need to calculate the basically network bandwidth? So it basically whenever you always work mostly work in the cloud setup, like for example you would probably be using AWS or GCP. So if you do these estimations on network, so it there is cost associated with everything. So this network bandwidth will essentially help you determine the network cost that your system is going to have. Yeah, so that's essentially why do we calculate. Yeah, that's essentially why do we calculate the network output. And network input, I think that's not going to be much. Yeah, but I think that can be calculated into the similar way using the so basically network input would be the number of tweets that are coming in. So that's I think 100 million. So you can perform similar kind of calculation for network in as well. Anyways, then comes the next part. What is the amount of storage that we will be needing? So say for example we have, yeah sure, Mosami, go on. Yeah sure. So Mosami, whenever you work on the system, say for example you are actually designing some system, now you have to have some rough idea about the cost that you will be paying. So now the network cost is not directly visible to you. For example, if you take number of machines, say 10 machines, so you would be upfront knowing if you take 10 machines, then your cost will be cost for one machine, right? So now you also have to pay for the network, that how much network your app is going to consume, right? So how do you calculate that? Of course there would be some price that you have to pay for network, right? Whenever you work on the cloud platforms like AWS or Google Cloud. So what you have to do is if you calculate the network bandwidth, so you can directly multiply it by the cost you have to pay for ingress. That is basically the data you are serving out. So if you don't have the network bandwidth or network throughput requirement, then you will not be able to calculate your ingress cost. Yeah. Does it make sense, guys? Yeah. Yeah, sure. I got your point. So I think that's not going to affect our system, since what we are doing is, first we have taken the amount, the whole day thing into the picture, right? The amount of data we will be serving throughout the day. So now, whenever you build a systems like that, you just get a price, not for a second or minute level, but for the monthly basis. That agar if you run a system, then say how much dollars you will have to pay every month. So say for example, say your network cost is say $1 for, say you have to pay it for say 100 Mbps network throughput, right? So if you have a peak traffic at a particular time, and say your this 12 Mbps goes to say 30 Mbps, then for that moment you will have to pay higher price. But there would be some moment when your network your usage is very low. In that duration you will have to pay lower price. So what you will be exactly doing is, you will be calculating this price, network throughput price per second, and then you will actually have it on the monthly or say daily level. So that thing essentially going to remain same, because sometime it will be more and sometime it will be less, right? Any more questions, guys, or we should move ahead? Yeah. So guys, now is the turn for storage estimation. So now how do we do that? So we have 100 million tweets every day, and each tweet, size of each tweet is around 300 bytes, 280 bytes for actual storage and 20 bytes for metadata. So this is your storage requirement. So this number will come down to around say it will be around 30 GB per day, right? So guys, 10 raised to 6 bytes is 1 MB, 10 raised to 9 bytes is 1 GB. So guys, keep this kind of things handy with you, so that you can calculate these things very quickly. So here we have say two zeros plus 6 zeros for million, so it's 10 raised to 8, and then 2 more zeros, so it becomes 3 into 10 raised to 10, right? So if we just give 1 0 to this 3 and make it 9, so it becomes 3 into 10 raised to 9, which is essentially 30 into 10 raised to 9. So 30 GB per day is our storage requirement. Now what we can do is, we always calculate for a year's time or 5 years time or something like that. So how do we do that? You can simply multiply it by you can at least have 3 years time. So what you can do is 30 into 3 into 365, so we can roughly take it as 400 around. So this is around 30 into 10 raised to 9, and yeah, so I think what we are going to be left with is 30 into 2 and 1 more 0, so 3 more 0, so it becomes 10 raised to 12, and then it becomes 3 into 3 9 for the 36. So 36 into 10 raised to 12. So 10 raised to 12 is basically petabytes. No, I think 10 raised to 12 is terabytes. 36, yeah, so it's roughly around 3600 into 10 raised to 9, 3600 GB, which is 36 terabytes of data, I think. Yeah, 36 terabytes of data. So for 3 years worth of time, will be required around 36 TB of space for storing the tweets. Now why do we calculate the storage estimation like this? So there are multiple reasons to it. First thing, you have to do provisioning. Like whenever you decide on the database, that which database you will be using, you have to do provisioning, right? How many boxes you will be needing and all those things. So that's why it's good to have some storage estimations, so that you can because at day one, when you are launching your system, what is the kind of allocation you will be having storage for storage or a network. That's why this storage calculation is required, and it will also boil down to cost. It will also help you estimate the overall cost of your system, because your cost will be, you know, network cost, then it will be storage cost, then it will compute cost and all those things, right? So the network cost help us in determining the so network cost we have seen the network estimation. For storage cost, this storage estimation will help us. Yeah, we will definitely consider them. We will talk more about them once at later point of time. Yeah. So guys, these are, I think, the back of the envelope estimations that we have done. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for now to give us a start. Now comes what's next. So basically, after this point of time, what you can do is you can identify some high level APIs that you will be building in your system. So one API that we have is you know, tweet, that will help us in post a tweet. Then we have another API for follow or unfollow, right? Then we have another API for marking favorite. And then we have one more API for fetching up the timeline, right? Fetch timeline. So it will actually serve a user with the feed. What are the posts that he is going to see? So these are the high level APIs that we are going to have. Now comes the data models. So how do we basically, you know, model our data? So first entity that we have is user, right? So you would be, of course, having an identifier associated with the user, created on email, phone, geography, and things like that. Then another thing that you need is tweet, right? Each tweet again is going to have one identifier, creation time, author, content, and so on. Then another thing we need is follow and unfollow, right? So we can have simply one table in which we can have follow, unfollow, and another thing is timestamp we can have. Not unfollow, sorry, I think I messed it up. So one will be follower, and then there would be followee. Follower is who is following, and the followee is the person to which a person is following. And then time, when a person has followed a person. Then another thing when we have is favorites, right? In favorites, what we need first is the tweet ID, user ID, and then we can have some timestamp. Yeah, I think guys, these are the four major entities that we are going to have in our system. If you guys have any questions around this or more suggestions, then I'll be happy to know that. Yeah, no questions. Yeah, that's fine. So guys, now let's see what are the data stores that we will be using for this. Yeah, Masumi, go on. Yeah. Yeah. So say for example, there is one user, user 1, who follows to a celebrity, could be any celebrity, so say Virat Kohli. So there will be some user ID associated with Virat Kohli, right? So there will be an entry user 1 and say V for Virat. Then there will be entry for user 2 who follows some another user, say U2. then u1 would be following some another user, say u3, and then in the user table you are going to have actual data. Yeah. So guys, now let's focus on what are the data stores that we will be using for storing each of this entity. So guys, I want to know your suggestions on this before we actually move towards the final solution. Yeah, any data store in general. Which data store you will be choosing? Just normal. So let's start from the favorites. Guys, feel free to unmute yourself and give the inputs. No one is speaking up. Yeah, I think that's fine. So data store we can have here is, so for example, we want to store favorites. So in favorites we just have three properties: set, tweet ID, user ID, and timestamp. But this favorites could be, this number of records in this table could be extremely large, right? Say because we are considering 200 million daily active users, and this number is itself very big. And if say 1 million one user on an average follows even 10 users, then also this number will go up to in billions. So we have so we can surely not use SQL data store for this, right? Now what are the other options that we have is since we have to just store the records, right? So SQL, why we are not choosing the SQL over here? Because it's not horizontally scalable. One thing is horizontal scalability, and another one is we don't need the properties, ACID properties for this particular record, right? So there is no point using SQL for this. So what we can have is, guys, I think distributed row structures, the data store that support storing the distributed rows. So Google Cloud Spanner is a good option for that. So that is also known as distributed SQL. So this is basically horizontally scalable. You can spawn up any number of machines that you want, and your data will be scattered around all the nodes of it. So since we don't need any kind of joins over here, we don't need any kind of transactions over here, so the distributed SQL is a best option that we can have. If you have joins or transactions in place, only joins I would say, so then distributed SQL becomes like a weird option, because on distributed data store joins become very complex, because you have to look up all the nodes to find out the aggregated data, right? So for favorites, we will go with the distributed data store, distributed SQL data store. And same thing, guys, will go for follow as well, follow and user. Yeah, because I think all the information, we just need a functionality for a lookup based on certain fields in user table. So I think for favorites, users, and follow, we will go for distributed SQL data store, something like Google Cloud Spanner. Now guys, what comes with the tweet? How do you store the tweets? Now that's another problem that we have. So guys, for tweets, we need more flexible schema, right? The same thing I think can go for user table as well. For user table, I'm not very much rigid about I'll be choosing distributed SQL or NoSQL. So yeah, so but for tweets we surely need a flexible schema, because for tweets time to time you may have to add a couple of metadata items, right? So if you choose a distributed SQL, then altering the schema would be another challenge that you will have to deal with. And yeah, I think that's one point. So we need a flexible schema for tweets. So if we have this kind of requirement, then we can go for we are left with two we have to choose basically opt for NoSQL database. There are multiple options. We can either use MongoDB or Cassandra. Both are equally suitable for this particular use case. Yeah. So guys, does this make sense? Reasoning part is clear. Why we have particularly chosen this particular data stores? Yeah, sure. No, the horizontal scalability. Adding more machines on the fly. Sorry? You didn't? Okay, just a second. My laptop battery is dying. Let me connect the charger first. Yeah. So basically, say you have one SQL database, say MySQL. You will be essentially running it on one machine. Now, if you have say billions of records, then it will be beyond capacity of one machine, because there is only a certain limit to which you can scale up a particular machine vertically, right? So if you have say instead of one machine you can have say 10 machines, and you can distribute your records on all of these machines. So this way your load will be distributed across the machines. And if you want to add more records in the system, say for example today your application's DAO is say 200 million, and say tomorrow your application process a billion DAU, then you cannot vertically scale up the machine. In this setup you can just add up 10 more machines on the fly, right? So this gives you infinite scalable capabilities. Yeah, is it clear? Yeah guys, so I think these were the we have discussed our data models, the kind of data stores that we are going to use. Now comes the next part, which is high level architecture. We have talked of having 3 APIs into our system. First one is post tweet, then there is follow unfollow, then there is favorite, and then there is timeline, right? So let's start with one by one and see how. So in high level architecture, what we do is we come up with very concrete plan on how are we going to serve each of the API. Say some user calls this API, say create tweet, then what are the steps that you will be actually performing? All of these things we need to take into the account. So Guys, I think for posting up a tweet, it's pretty straightforward, right? Whichever data store you can just simply put it there. Then comes follow and follow. Similar thing goes for it as well, and same thing goes for favorite as well. You have to just make an insertion into your whichever data store that you have chosen. Now comes the timeline part. In timeline part, how do you serve it? That's actually very challenging part, and that is the whole crux of this problem. So be it be it a Twitter design, be it a Facebook design, be it Instagram design, be it a design of a short video app like Moj or TikTok, this thing is most important thing and the real crux of the problem. In timeline, what you have to do is say if you follow 4 celebrities and if you open up your timeline, you will be you should be in the position to see the tweets by those celebrities or just I would say users in general. You should be able to see the tweets or the activities of the users that you follow. So that's the part of designing the timeline. Now, how do we actually serve the feed fetch API? Some user will just call feed fetch. So how do you respond to it? That's the most challenging part, I would say. So guys, I need your inputs on this. We will come back to it later. I think first we will explore the simplest solutions and we will see what are the problems with it. So that other people get a better idea about it. So guys, can you guys think of even the simplest solutions? There are no silly answers. You guys can suggest whatever you have in your mind. This will open up your thinking patterns basically. Okay. So on a higher level, what you are making, what you are saying makes sense, but we need to go into the how. So say for example, one user follows, say U1 follows U2, U3 and U4. Now what are the exact set of steps that you will be performing if U1 calls the fetch API? So okay, so what do you mean by registration? So we have one data store where we are storing all the tweets with its author information, right? Author ID basically. So do you mean something other than that by register, or that thing itself? No worries. So guys, the most simplest solution that comes to my mind is, you can first fetch the list of the followers of a particular user, right? Followees of a user. How much how much users this person is particularly following, right? So say for example, user 1 calls the fetch API. You get a list of his followers. Say you got these 3 followers. Now what you can do, you can query this tweets table to fetch all the tweets by these 3 followers. You can rank them by timestamp in decreasing order and simply serve them, right? Yeah. So now the problem with this approach is that this thing is good enough for if you say 1000 or say 10,000 users every day. But we are building a system that has 200 million daily active users. And we have already seen our tweet searches, the amount of tweets that we are going to serve. We have already seen that earlier. I think that was around 4 billion tweets every day, right? GB per day. Yeah, I think it was 4 billion tweets per day, tweet views per day. So with this kind of scale, this thing, the solution which I just suggested is will work. It's not going to scale basically, because we need to understand our system is read heavy, right? A single tweet will be read by millions and millions of users. So are you able to imagine the ratio? The data of your writing versus your reading, it's going to be a huge difference in that, right? So once we realize that our system is read heavy, we should immediately start thinking about some kind of pre-computations that we can do, because this way our data will get choked up completely and we will not be able to retrieve with a better pace, and we have to keep the latency of such systems at around 300 to 500 milliseconds, right? So which we are clearly not going to get with the architecture which I just suggested, right? So we need something better. So guys, what we can do, we can have some kind of pre-computation. So say if a user tweets, then what you can do, you can find out list of all of his followers and you can calculate their timeline upfront. This is your timeline. So for example, say user 1 follows U2, U3 and U4. Say U2 follows U4, U3 say U7 also follows U4. Now say U4 makes a tweet. So what you can do, you can find out all the followers of U4, which is U1, U2 and U7, right? And whenever user 4 has created a tweet, you will say it said tweet ID is T1, you will insert T1 in all of this cache, all of these timelines of each of these users. So once at any point of time a user has posted a tweet, you will just calculate the list of his followers and you will just insert that tweet ID into their timelines basically. So this is going to be in-memory cache. This will be an in-memory data store, something like Redis. So what you can do, you can have it simply sorted based on timestamps to get the data in chronological order. So what you can do, whenever user has posted a tweet, you will just fetch up list of all of his followers and populate their timeline. Does it make sense, guys? So now say user 1 calls the fetch API. So you already have his timeline pre-computed, right? So we can just start serving the tweets from this list over here to the particular user U1. So this way we will be able to serve this thing in just no time, because this in-memory data store is going to give us very extremely faster access. Make sense, guys? Any questions? हाँ. Yeah. 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 That's a good point, Ashish, that you brought up. So I'll just answer it up. So there are two aspects to it. First thing which we have discussed is our system is read heavy system. So in the systems of this kind, say Facebook or Twitter, it's absolutely okay that if say Amitabh Bachchan posts a tweet, then say one user sees it right at the moment, and say one user sees it after say 1 minute or so, right? It's completely okay. That's one dimension. Another dimension is what we can do is we can further improvise this solution and use something called as fan out. So what we can do is we can have some kind of threshold for celebrities. Say if a user has more than 1 million followers, then we can call it a celebrity. And what we can do, we can have separate this is one thing is the timeline, then we can have another timeline, say celebrity posts. And in this what we will do, say Amitabh Bachchan has tweeted, so we will keep all the posts of Amitabh Bachchan here separately. So now if user fetches the request to fetch his timeline, what we will do is we will check if user is going to have some celebrity followers or not. So if for the celebrity followers, what we will do, we will just fetch some tweets from their timeline, and for non-celebrity followers we can just and for rest of the users we can just serve this part of the feed, right? So this way our overall computation will be minimized to a great extent. No, celebrity. Say if Amitabh or any celebrity has posted a tweet, so we will find out whether he is a celebrity or not based on some threshold, and based on that we will put those tweets into a separate bucket. Yeah. So because if this kind of people tweet, then of course the concern is valid. There would be too much to populate. If we say for 10 million, 20 million, there are celebrities with 50 million followers. If they make a tweet, then you can imagine what kind of computation will be required to process that, the earlier step. So we can do the fanning out basically. Yeah, does it make sense? Yeah, so guys, I think we are done with the architectural part of it. Now I'll just help you with the high level diagram to summarize all the things that we have discussed. So guys, first layer will be our API gateway. These are the mobile clients that we are going to have that will be hitting the API gateway. Now there would be one tweet service that will basically process the tweets. So, and of course there will be multiple boxes of it. So one is a tweet service that we are going to have. Then what we can do is another thing that we have is feed service. This is for serving the timeline. Then we can have like a different service for follow and favorite. One will be the follow service, and another one will be favorites. Of course, these services are also going to run on multiple boxes, maybe lesser in number. Now, how do you process the actual tweet? Say what we will do, since we have seen, like, we have to do some kind of pre-computation on every tweet post. So if we process the tweet directly in that way, or if we process the tweet synchronously, then our connections will get stacked up, right? So yeah, so our connections will get stacked up. So instead what we will be doing is we will have one queue. This is basically a message queue, RabbitMQ or Kafka or something. There has been some issue with my pen tablet suddenly. Let me just restart this OneNote. I think that's causing some problem. Yeah, I think much better now. Yeah. So yeah, so guys, we will be having one queue over here. So every time a user makes a tweet, we will be publishing to this queue, and then we will be having one consumer, or you can call this tweet processor worker, whichever makes you feel more comfortable. Now what we will do, we will be having our databases. This is our tweet store. So this consumer will write to this tweet store, plus this consumer, other thing that it will do is it will we will be also having one timeline cache, right? This consumer will also fetch the list of all the followers for a particular celebrity who is tweeting, and it will call this thing timeline service. This timeline cache. It will pre-compute the data into the timeline cache. Then we will be having some different data stores. Say another thing we are going to have, this feed service will be interacting with the timeline cache. Then we will be having one data store for storing favorites. The diagram has not been arranged very much properly, but I think it will give a better sense still. And this is the followers. This follow service will interact with this, and the favorites table will interact with this table favorites. Yeah, I think guys, so this is the high level architecture. We have an API gateway over here. Yeah, so guys, and of course, each of these service is behind a load balancer. That is, I think, implicit when I have mentioned that this will be running on the multiple boxes. Yeah, I think that's all, guys. If you have any questions, you can ask me, and we can move towards the closure of the session.